I want to give you some updates on a story originally talked about last week, and that has to do with a Belarusian Olympian named Krystsina Tsimanouskaya. I believe it is, Brett. I'm not sure if you have a better pronunciation on that, but we knew that she was seeking not to return home after criticizing those in charge of her team and believing that she was under threat as a result of it. Well, we have a lot more information about the form that those threats came in, and this is really scary, dark stuff. So bear that in mind, but fascinating that something like this would be happening at the Olympics. So a reported recording has emerged of her speaking with two of those in charge of the team, and we're gonna give you some quotes from it. But what we do know is that not long after the conversation we're about to show you, the sprinter fled into the arms of police at Tokyo airport. Belarusian officials were trying to force her back onto a flight to Minsk. On Wednesday, after 2 days holed up at the Polish embassy in Tokyo, she was back at Narita to take a flight to a life of exile in Europe, which we'll give you updates on. So she is now, at least for now, safe. But the feud, I want to catch you up, began when the 24-year-old runner who thought that she had entered only into the 200 meters race in Tokyo discovered that she had been put down for the 4x100 without anyone from the team consulting with her. Fearing disruption to her medal chances in her main event, she posted a video on Instagram criticizing the team's coaches. Now, she quickly took that down, and notably, she never criticized the country or the regime or anything like that. But that said, the two men, this is Belarusian chief athletics coach Yuri Moisevich and Artur Shumak, came and spoke to her about the criticism. According to the transcript of that recording, the two men first try to reassure her that if she comes home without a fuss, all will be fine, that it will be forgotten as a youthful indiscretion, and she will be able to resume her athletic career. She says on the transcript, "I think this won't end well for me." Okay, so we're gonna get to more, and the threats become more explicit and as dark as anything I can imagine. But first of all, Brett, what do you think about that?
I mean, anytime you have a story about the Olympics and you start asking questions about it, it's not too dissimilar from the NFL, where you start the thing that was designed originally to just be some happy escape, where people who otherwise hate each other would put those discrepancies aside, end their feuds and move on. Now is causing you more stress because now you know anything about the corrupt and horrifying underpinnings of the institution.
Yeah.
And this is one of those where every time when Simone Biles said that she was gonna kind of step out, I was like, come on, buck up. And then people are like, she won gold medals with broken toes. And other people, when you're hearing about 80s gymnasts who were forced to perform even though they knew they would hurt themselves and ended up hurting themselves because they had the twisties or whatever affliction they were just told to power through, to the detriment of their team. Like, then I realized, oh gosh, I can find other things that can make me happy. I can watch reruns of Jeopardy and be happy. You know what I mean? I can watch old clips of the Olympics, and someone could tell me this is for. I watched a Katie Ledecky race and was over the moon about it. And then later someone was like, yeah, that was from Rio. And I was like, it was still fun to watch.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give you something that might not be fun to watch, but you do need to know it. It does get dark. Someone in the chat was like, it's a nice family you got there. That's sort of the fear here. But anyway, here is what happened. Team officials warned her that if she did not go back, then everyone will suffer. The entire team could be ruined, with Shumak saying, through your stupidity, you could end up destroying people's lives. Again, because she put up an Instagram video criticizing the coaches. Here is what Moisevich said: humility makes a person. Get over this. Put aside your pride. Your pride will tell you, don't do it. You've got to be kidding. And it will start pulling you into the devil's vortex and twisting you. That's how suicide cases end up, unfortunately. The devil grabs them and says, you have to prove it to somebody, so jump from a balcony. Oh, how they'll tear out their hair and later lament that they drove you to it. And you know what's the funniest thing? The people will say, well, that idiot could have lived. She didn't prove anything to anyone.
That's not about it. That's not how any of that goes.
That's crazy in a lot of ways. And that's just a gilded, we're gonna kill you and we're gonna make it look like suicide.
Yeah.
Because this sprinter criticized them. She just wanted to run 200 meters as fast as she could. And they're threatening to push her from a balcony, which, by the way, I mean, there's a lot of people who have jumped off balconies over the past 5 years or so, suspiciously. But anyway, they're threatening to make her the latest to do that. And so I can only imagine how terrified she was going to that airport, apparently realizing that she could make it to the police and they didn't realize it. So that was the only thing that saved her, was that she made it to Tokyo police and went into protective custody, because she was terrified that if she went back, the best case scenario would be that she would be institutionalized for the rest of her life. Worst case scenario is that there wouldn't be much of the rest of her life there.
And how about this? It seems like, there is a fine line between being on an Olympic team and kind of being forced into labor. There is, once she's in that situation, and this underscores it. Like, people hyperbolize and seem to be hyperbolizing when they say, listen, you give your whole life to this thing, it's no longer for you, you're doing something for the country, and there's a bunch of pressures from everyone. This is pressure of life and death, and we're gonna really hurt your family. And add to that, what a lot of people do in order to get into the reason that they get into the Olympics is to get something better for their family, to get a better life. And because she wanted to do better in her chosen event, and they forced her to do otherwise, in her opinion, in what I would consider an expert opinion, to the detriment of everything else, of her country and her team. At the end of it, it's gonna make life much, much worse for her. Even if she does do the thing that ends up being better for her, which is not going back to her country.
Definitely not. Yeah, I want to give you a couple more quotes from her because I'm incredibly brave. Want to give her the credit. First of all, a reminder, totally unrelated. NGO chief in Belarus found hanged in Ukraine was a story from a few days ago. Just putting that out there. So as of, I believe it was yesterday, Krystsina had an interview. She said, grandmother called me when they were already driving me to the airport. I had some 10 seconds. She called me. All that she told me was, please do not come back to Belarus. It's not safe. She went on to say, they did not expect that in the airport I can approach the police. They think that we are scared to make a move, that we are afraid to speak, afraid to tell the truth to the whole world, but I am not afraid. Although I would have been. But anyway, she did make it on a plane eventually, going to Vienna. It is believed that she will eventually make it to Poland. She was originally going to go directly there, but they were worried that the plane would be routed to Belarus, as another was not that long ago. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure she's terrified for her family that remains in that country. It's just devastating. As someone pointed out on Twitch, looking forward to Tucker Carlson's week of programming in Belarus soon. But anyway, yeah, just terrified. You don't expect anything like this from the Olympics, but we have a country filled with broken, corrupt, despotic regimes, and they ruin everything. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.